is David Nemiroff. I'm the board chair of the Health and Welfare Council of Long Island. Tonight, I am the mayor of Foodville. And I'm happy to welcome you to our third annual Halloween Ball. I'm also here to tell you that this special town where the Who's live is in constant celebration and excitement for the upcoming census. Who? Here. Come on, a little lively. Okay. And the Who's are known for their warm hearts, their kind smiles, and they have a welcoming spirit, and couldn't be more excited to be preparing for the 2020 census to get Whoville the dollars it deserves for better roads, better programs, everything that makes Whoville special. I welcome you to our special town.
All the Who's down in Whoville like the census a lot. They like the improvements for Whoville it brought. The census funds healthcare. It funds education. It distributes seats needed for representation. Region-wide resilience in the face of disaster is funded by census for a full decade after. Census provides dollars to keep Whoville fine and dandy and helps Long Island recover from Hurricane Sandy. With an incomplete count, potholes won't get filled. There will be no money to repair or to build. Yes, everyone in Whoville liked the census a lot, but the Grinch who lived north of Whoville did not. The Grinch hated the census, and all through the season, nobody quite understood the reason. The thought of the census made her appalled, made it want her to avoid the Halloween ball. The Who's thought her heart was just 2 sizes too small.
This you're charming as an eel, Mr. Grinch. Greasy black hair. You're a monster, Mr. Grinch. Your heart's an empty hole.
Healthcare? Healthcare? Please, I'm not fair. I'll take your healthcare. School lunches? This I will repeat. Little Whool children, they do not need to eat. Education? Education money for the school? Forget it! I can be so cruel! Representation? Representation in DC? Please, let's just let that be. Transit and repair for a road? I'd rather watch all your cars implode.
Sweet Cindy Lou Who didn't know what to do, so she fluffed up her courage to see it all through.
Mrs. Grinch, participating in the census is a choice, but the census ensures that we all have a voice. Everyone should be counted, even you, Mrs. Grinch, it's true. Everyone counts, and we're counting on you.
Then the Grinch heard a sound rising over the snow. It started low, and then it started to grow. But the sound wasn't sad, why, it sounded merry. And it was very. Every Who in Whoville, short and tall, they were working together and laughing. They weren't sad at all. The Grinch puzzled until her puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something she hadn't before.
Perhaps the census isn't something to ignore. Perhaps the census means a little bit more.
And what happened then? Well, in Whoville they say that the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. And from then on she proclaimed to everyone in sight,
Merry Census to all, and to all a good night. Welcome to our 3rd annual Halloween Ball. A night to be cherished and remembered for the inspiration and hope that we want to leave you with tonight, and the joy of celebrating an evening that is very much about who we are as Long Islanders and who we can become. I need to thank a few people first. Certainly David Nemroff, my board chair, whose leadership is outstanding. I need to thank all of my board members, and especially those here tonight, Colleen Merlot, Melissa Sidor, Marianella Casas, Basil Blatty, Fidel Chadre, Jeff Weir, and others who just weren't able to get here but are constantly voices for those in need on Long Island. Thank you to all of our sponsors. They are listed in the program. I hope you will get to know them this evening, and a special thank you to People's United Bank, our biggest sponsor of the event. I need to thank the Who's, my incredible team. The Who's are a whimsical community created by Dr. Seuss of people with the kindest hearts and endless goodness. And the truth is, that is my team. They are the most outstanding people that I get the privilege to work with every day, and I am forever grateful for that. Tonight, special thanks goes to Mary Hallowell, Gina Dorso, and Celeste Hernandez for their tireless work. They worked so hard to make tonight special for all of you. Last but not least, I have to say a special thank you to my husband and to my mom, because they have sort of dealt with for the last few years the fact that I start talking about Halloween in May and June in anticipation of planning. But this year they had to hear about Halloween and Christmas, so they get extra credit for their patience. We hope you enjoyed our skit about the Grinch who stole the census. The truth is that the 2020 census will set a funding precedent for 10 years about what we can get and expect as a region. Let that sink in. 10 years of funding is determined by how accurate a count we get in 2020. Suffolk and Nassau are the 4th and 5th hardest to count counties in all of the 62 counties in New York State. We all work far too hard to send our precious dollars to DC. If we want downward pressure on our taxes, if we want roads and infrastructure that reflects how we value our communities, if we want thriving businesses and not vacant main streets, if we want children to be fed and our communities to have health insurance, then we have to be ambassadors to achieve an accurate count in 2020. At the Health and Welfare Council of Long Island, we address symptoms, yes, poverty, hunger, economic instability, and more. But we see our role as the umbrella agency for the region as addressing systems. We know that as America's first ever, we can lead the nation on what it means to solve complex social problems. And I mean that, solve them. Not touch them, not address them, not discuss them, solve them. And the truth is, we are living in a time where we are overwhelmed by Grinches. There are numerous Grinches in Washington, D.C. People in positions of power who are making decisions each and every day that are decimating our communities, leading people to live in a climate of fear. In fact, in our region alone, people are dropping off safety net, health and human services at an alarming rate for fear. Children are being caged at the border. Families on Long Island are being caged by fear. The Grinches in D.C. are also assaulting access to food, leaving so many of our seniors on Long Island hungry and afraid. 31% of households in Nassau and 39% of households in Suffolk are not able to meet a basic survival budget, meaning that in our backyards every night, families are making decisions about keeping the heat on or feeding their families. There are also Grinches in our communities, as we've seen numerous swastikas, increases in incidents of hate against people of all ethnicities and faiths, as we live in a time in which the permission to be hateful has never
never been so vivid. The truth is that there are Grinches in our culture, with 1 in 5 children suffering from mental illness and the suicide rate among adolescents being the highest that it has been since the year 2000. There is a Grinch that is stealing childhood. There are Grinches in state and local leadership as we watch policies and planning that are exclusionary, that fail to remediate the inequity in our region, where a child at one side of a stoplight can be tracked for opportunity and on the other side, under-resourced schools. Ever been to Hempstead? 47% graduation rate, contrasted with Garden City next door with a 98% graduation rate. This is absurd. Children on one side of the stoplight on Washington Avenue are tracked for failing schools, and on the other are tracked for AP courses. That kind of inequity cannot stand. And if we are completely honest, there are Grinches among all of us. Not mean, scary Grinches who want to steal the beauty of human experience, but rather the Grinch of complacency. The Grinch of giving up hope, of knowing our own power, of connecting to it. To be a transformative force for our neighbors and for the extraordinary amount of Long Islanders struggling as the poverty level is the highest that it has been since 1959. But here is another truth. Here is a promise. The real story of the Grinch is of a character whose early years were marked by neglect and abuse. He didn't fit in. He felt ridiculed. He felt isolated. So many of our neighbors right now on Long Island of all backgrounds are feeling this way right now. But the story is actually one of transformation, of being seen. The Grinch is seen for his goodness, for his core, by a young little girl named Cindy Lou who chooses to be kind to him and chooses to pursue him with that weapon, that powerful, powerful weapon we call kindness. And what happens? It's not a clear path, but ultimately the Grinch transforms. But it took something to shift that. It took love. And it also took love to help people see themselves again. We are here today, having started as a small organization in Nassau County in 1947, leading the charge on making sure all of our communities are counted in 2020 in every corner of Long Island. Because every human being counts. Because this is about humanity counting. We can shift our brokenness as a society and as a region. We can transform by raising our consciousness, because the same mind that allowed today's problems are not the mindset that is needed to solve them. We can take those Grinches that I described earlier and turn them into transformed hope. We can do it, but we have to do it together. Tonight I ask you to get your hopes up, to get excited again, to believe again in who we can be as a nation and as a state and as the amazing Long Island region that we are. To know that as America's first suburb, that we can transform ourselves and the world around us, not from a place of despair, only from a place in which hope is as much a strategy as it is a feeling. I know we can do this. I wake up every morning reinvigorated with that knowing. And so when it comes to the census, we've been building an army on Long Island. It is an army weaponized with the transformative power of love. It is an army that stands for the principle that every person needs to be counted, not only because of the political impacts of an undercount, not only because of the funding impacts, not only because of the educational and economic impacts, but for a more simple reason. Humanity counts. And that means all of us. No, I'm not a Muslim, but I better show up when the Muslim community on Long Island is targeted. No, I'm not African American, but I have a responsibility to know my privilege and to speak out against the unconscionable inequity we see in communities of color. No, I'm not an immigrant, but 11,000 new Long Island teenage residents faced unconceivable trauma to cultivate a future for themselves in the last few years on Long Island, and I have a responsibility to know who they are, to see them, and to be part of their success. No, I have not experienced generational poverty, but I have a responsibility to understand the violent and traumatic experiences so many of our neighbors face each and every day. If we live in our separateness, if our counting of each other is determined by anything but our collective humanity, then none of us are free. Our region cannot thrive, and we will continue to see our region's promise as it is constricted by our understanding. Join me tonight in the belief that we can shift and transform consciousness, that we can take the Grinches in our backyard and transform them into agents of hope. Join me tonight in being ambassadors to see our neighbors again, to see one another, to ensure we are all counted in 2020, and beyond that, to ensure that we lift up the message that every single life on Long Island, every single story, every single person and family has promise and hope and truly counts. Thank you. I'm now so excited to present to you tonight's honorees. At the Health and Welfare Council of Long Island, we honor children because we believe we have a responsibility to cultivate stewards of social justice in our region. So often, kids receive awards for being top students or top athletes. We choose to honor children who are using their lives to make a difference. On that note, I am so pleased to present to you Peyton Hall. Social justice in her school and community. She has so many accomplishments that I could share, but what stood out for us in choosing to honor Peyton is how she has created and facilitated workshops for young people to address social injustice and racism. Peyton has not only created workshops, she has helped develop the Youth Council for the Women's Diversity Network and is working with a Women's Empowerment Initiative at her school to bring light to social justice issues that impact everyone. We are so proud tonight to honor Peyton, and I want to ask Doc Spencer, Legislator Spencer, who I know is here, to come up as well, as we have the opportunity to honor. Thank you so much. We are so proud of you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me here. I am on the 2019 Health and Welfare Council of Long Island Student Honorees for Stewards of Social Justice. I'm 16 and an advocate for social justice. That's not right. Just let that sink in for a minute. First and foremost, I would like to thank Rita Fernandez for nominating me. Your work, your spirit, and your being inspires all those who have the fortune of having with their lives. You make the world a better place spiritually and physically. I would like to also thank Long Island Health and Welfare Council for the work that they do on behalf of Long Islanders. Your work directly impacts and helps real people. It is truly an honor to be here tonight. Today, I stand here honored for my activism, work I would not have started had it not been for an incident 3 years ago when I was in 8th grade. Although my parents tried their best to prepare me for the world, nothing can prepare you for when things really happen. It is more often than not that these experiences can make or break us. 13-year-old me was scrolling through Instagram when something caught my eye one day. A girl in my grade had posted herself in a black charcoal face mask with the caption, "Young, Black, and Proud," and this was during Black History Month. I had experienced blackface. In American history, for those who don't know, blackface was a form of entertainment that featured white performers painted black as a sort of mockery of black people. The performances were disparaging to black people, and the actors conformed to negative stereotypes associated with black Americans. Minstrel shows began in America sometime in the 1830s and continued to be performed in some parts of the U.S. until the 1950s. What's worse, her username was Nicolette, a play on her name, which was Nicolette. This was the first problem I encountered. My mom and I brought this to the attention of the middle school administration as well as the district superintendent. At first, we wanted the students to suffer a consequence equivalent to the hurt that I had experienced. However, my mom and I too had a lesson to learn, wanting more for this young woman to learn about what she had did and why it hurt me. The process was made difficult by student body with backlash in her favor, and I also learned why people don't want to tell others. Upon speaking with the superintendent, we also learned that he did not know what blackface was. This was the motivation for my activism. Often, the motivation for advocacy is hurt. I was hurt. I was hurt that a classmate did this. I was hurt that my peers were demonizing me for reporting the incident. I was hurt that a superintendent, the grown man responsible for my education, did not know what blackface was. It hurts that an environment that is supposed to support me and encourage me to thrive is doing the opposite, and it hurts that I stand here tonight discussing how I managed to thrive despite my school environment rather than because of it. At the ripe age of 13, I made the connection between hate and ignorance, and I wanted to do something about it. So I got to work. I started by having controversial discussions with my peers, and this eventually developed into me creating and facilitating racial workshops with the Women's Diversity Network with my mother to girls my age. These experiences have been turned into an opportunity for me to lead. Currently, I serve as the president of my school's Women's Empowerment Initiative, the secretary of my school's African American Student Organization, and as the teen editor of Jacksonville, Suffolk County. These experiences have not only made me eligible for this award today, but have also shaped me as an individual. I would like to thank my grandparents, my parents, and my aunt, who are all here today, especially my mother, who supported me through every step of the way. Although you may not think it's appreciated, thank you for putting me, Dylan, Jack, and me, and Brian, too. Thank you for putting me in programs that have allowed me to thrive. Thank you for driving us to basketball games and practices and everything. Thank you for creating an environment where it's okay for me to be me. I know a lot of kids don't have that, so thank you, Mom. Lastly, I would like to thank an unlikely source. I would like to thank Nicolette, the girl who did the blackface, and I would like to thank the rest of my peers, for they have no idea of the fire they have lit in me. Thank you.
And I see some of the women can jump here, just rise if you'd like to just come up. Please do. And next I'd like to call our second honoree, HWCLI Lennon. High School and is a devoted advocate for those struggling with addiction and their families. She's a fierce advocate for addressing the stigma associated with the disease of addiction and making sure that families that are facing the crisis of addiction don't feel alone. I'm so proud to congratulate and introduce you to HWCLI.
Hi, I'm HWCLI Lennon, and I'm so ecstatic to have won the 2019 Stewards of Justice Award for all the work that I've done about addiction to help my community learn about it. So now I'm going to tell you about my life story and why I decided to do work on addiction. When I was 7 years old, my mom and dad got divorced because of my dad's drug and alcohol addiction. I knew my dad was drinking or on drugs because of the way he acted. He would yell and sometimes get violent. This went on for years and years. My dad had worked as an art teacher and was a coach at my district, Hampton-Bays High School. So when I was a freshman in high school, his addiction got bad. He would drink all the time and just wouldn't stop. So one day, he decided he would come into school for me drunk. Yeah, you heard that right, drunk. And all I can remember is my dad coming to my class, pulling me out in front of the whole class and telling me that he had to go home because he was sick. I guess he thought he was fooling me, but I could smell it on him and he was slurring his words. I had walked back into the class so humiliated because the whole class had heard that conversation, including the teacher. So during that week, all I heard in the hallways and even in my classes were, "Where's Mr. Lennon? Is Mr. Lennon dead?" In my head, I wished it were true, but if I had known what would happen 2 years later, I would have never wished for such a thing. I had then ended up moving to another district, Sayville, because I couldn't keep myself in the school that I had grown up in, all because of what happened with my dad. At my new school, I was in a group with kids going through the same thing as I was. We had gone into the health classes and done presentations about addiction. This is where I had got my idea for my bigger project. During my time at Sayville High School, something tragic happened to me. So everyone's life starts and ends somewhere. My dad's life started out as a loving son, father, teacher, coach, and mentor, and ended as a strong recovering addict who just couldn't handle his addiction any longer. On February 25th of 2018, during my junior year, my dad had passed away from his long, hard fight with addiction. I had then decided I would move back to Hampton-based high school because deep down that's where I had belonged, and finally realized that. So during my senior year in my government and economics class, we had done this project called Genius Hour. Basically what that is we had to think of something, an idea, to see if we could accomplish it by the end of the year. I had decided that I would do a presentation on addiction as a disease and how to stop the stigma. I had then pushed into my health classes and did my presentation to the younger grades. I wanted to do this because I wanted younger kids to realize that addiction is truly a real life thing and many people have to deal with it at home, and it's scary to think that. When you think of addiction, you might not think of something that really isn't serious, but in reality, it is a very serious disease that affects not just the person who's addicted, but everybody in the family. Addiction is really a family disease, and that's the sad truth that not many people know of. Many kids also don't know that addiction runs in families, and it sadly runs in mine. After that first drink, hit of the Juul, vape, cigarette, and any try of drugs, you can get addicted in a split second if you have that gene in your family. I wanted all these kids to be aware of all the dangers and harms. So during all of that, I had won awards I was recognized for all my accomplishments. First, I was nominated and won the Suffolk County Executive Youth Award for all my work in the health classes and talk about addiction. And in that same award ceremony, I had won the Suffolk County PAL Citizenship Award. Second, I had been recognized in Newsday as 2019 Extraordinary Senior for again all the work I did. Recently, I have been asked to be honored at the Southampton Town Board meeting for all of the work I have done. So finally, I won the 2019 Stewards of Justice Award for all of the above. I am so thankful for each and every award. It is so meaningful and humbling to be recognized. I know that my dad is looking down on me, being so proud of all I've done this past year and a half, and this is for him. I am going to continue working with my community and school district to figure out a plan so that more kids, teens, and adults know about addiction and how to stop the stigma. I want everyone to know there's help out there for them, and know that if you need help, just reach out. Again, thank you all so much for being here and supporting not only me, but the other women.
And to the families of our honorees, as soon as we are done with the program, you can come up with your children and take pictures with our elected officials who are here tonight. We also have other proclamations from other elected officials who couldn't be here but are so impressed by our incredible honorees. I think you now know why we honored such amazing young people and why the future is so bright, knowing Long Island's children count Peyton and Keely among them. Before we eat dinner and end the program, we have to announce our costume winners. But first, just a couple quick things. I want to say a happy birthday. A happy birthday to Liz Custodio for being here. And I want to wish a happy birthday. It's 2 days late, but a happy birthday to my Aunt Teen, who's here tonight as well. So now we are going to announce the costume prizes, and I'm very excited to announce them. So the first, Tommy Grace, you better come back because your handwriting is a little challenging. So first for the table prize, which the table prize winners will win the Himalayan salt lamp, which is heavy, so it'll be handed out in a little while, is a table purchased by Tom Legno. The third prize winner is Steampunk, Michelle De La Rosa. Your prize is being brought to you. Thank you. You can just stand right here, ask some folks, all the decor. So part of one of the things we did this year with our sponsorships is include dollars for scholarships for our young honorees. So we are very happy to congratulate our honorees. They each are receiving a $600 scholarship from Health and Welfare Council of Long Island. And I'm very happy to introduce Wendy Rodriguez, who also has some very exciting news for our honorees.
Hi everyone, I would like to thank everyone for being here tonight, and definitely I'm just waiting for the check, I gave it in the front. We are from Liga de Justicia, to Soldados a Rescate. We're a firm that we believe in our children, always support every foundation, every nonprofit, especially like Rebecca's. Thank you so much for all the work you do, thank you so much girls. You guys are doing an amazing job, and us, we would like to honor you with a $500 check from Liga de Justicia for the scholarship. If you could both come here, please. We're going to take a picture with you guys.
Excellent, congratulations to our